Vladimir Vladimirovich.
Mr. President, here we have the entire world, 190 countries attending the festival. Despite some of the difficulties and odds and handicaps by some of the governments, they struggled to arrive here, and they have been looking for the meeting with you. When they saw your address at the opening ceremony, they wanted to have this meeting with you, and they kept asking about that. Let me give you the floor. Thank you very much. The first thing I want to tell you is that we're happy to welcome you to Russia. Warm welcome. Then, next thing, we're so glad that we have a broad representation of 190 nations from across the world, from all continents, but I want to emphasize one thing: we do not compete with anyone. We're no rivals. We do not want to prove anything to anyone. We are just happy and delighted to see our friends. And which is most important is that the meeting and such fora are organized and hosted by us, not for show-off. It's not kind of advertising. It has its meaning, and the meaning at the core is to bring together, well, similarly minded people sharing more or less the same principles and ideas and wishing to work in concert in order to attain positive outcomes for themselves and for their nearest and dearest, for their nations. We're open for this work, and as I have just said at the closing ceremony, it has been a big and profound major event. It has turned to be. It was held next door, and we really hope that you have liked it. And actually this meeting now, held by us, is meant for receiving the feedback from you. And I really want to hear from you on possible advice with respect to what should be done, so that next such meetings, as a follow-up to what has been done by the festival, future events should move us forward to attain our common goals of development. And frankly, I really would like to hear from you on the outcomes and the results of the work and what can be done as next steps. So probably this is the gist of what I wanted to tell by way of introduction. Thank you. Mr. President, Ksenia and I will help moderate the discussion. There's a great deal of countries and lots of questions, and one of the most represented delegations here is the People's Republic of China. This year we celebrate 75 years since the diplomatic relations were established between our countries, and there have been a number of events to celebrate that. Let them start, please. Let's give the floor to them. Do we have our Chinese friends attending? Yes, please.
Your Excellency, Mr. President, I am Li Ruoyi from China, and also I am a journalist from China Youth Daily. I really enjoy the hospitality and the open discussion here, and I actually have a question for you, and it is that you have mentioned that you hope the World Youth Festival will provide an opportunity for young people from various countries to discuss with their peers. And the large number of applications indicates that there are no borders or boundaries among young people. However, the world is currently experiencing new turmoil and transformation with weak economic recovery, escalating unilateralism, and geopolitical conflicts. So how shall young generation perceive the world today? Will it improve? And as a leader of a major country, what do you hope young people will do about it? Thank you.
Да, действительно, ситуация
Yes, indeed, the situation is not so easy, is sticky with lots of hotbeds of tension, like next to us. There are hostilities with the neighboring state, so it is actually a major issue. Second to probably nothing else, it's a tragedy when a war is waged because people die and lose their lives and get wounded. But is it any better worldwide? Well, in the course of the humankind history of the humanity, the same thing has been happening to a bigger or smaller scale. Well, how to survive and live through that? This is the question. We should always be thinking of a better future and strive for a context that would enable cooperation and reduce conflicts. There are issues in the economic and social spheres and in security domain also, but if youths such as you, who have been tackling different domains, get together and listen to one another, the decision makers at the political level today will find it easier to tilt towards such options to resolve conflicts that will lead to peace and stability for the future. So I think, actually, this is the prospective role of the youth. And in future, definitely there will be the succession of generations. It's clear, it's normal. And if at this point, at this juncture, at this stage of your professional growth, you keep in touch with your colleagues and peers between and among the countries, no matter whether they have good or bad relations today, this will provide a solid foundation for future creative and constructive interaction. Mr. President, as Leroy said, we have got to know our audience, and during the festival, well, a lot of questions were asked about unfriendly nations, and we came to a conclusion that there may be unfriendly elites. There are no unfriendly nations. But when we talk about youths, it's only about friendship. There can only be friendship. But let us hear from our participants, probably representing the West or Europe. Do you have any desire, any wish to ask a question? Please, please.
Dear Mr. President, my name is Matthias Kovac. I'm from Belgium and I work there as a physician in anesthesiology and intensive care. It's important for me to ask you my question in Russian. Это уже мой 8-й раз в России.
It's my 8th time in Russia. I love you. I adore your country and your culture. So I want to say that actually I looked the TV series Interns to learn Russian, and I actually got to know medicine in this country, and I had an internship at an intensive care unit in Moscow. It was a very good, enriching professional experience, gratifying, and I have been able, as a participant of this forum, to see and witness that Russia is an advanced country in terms of technology and medicine, and it's always ready to welcome people who want to come to work here. Can you give youths an advice if they want to understand the Russian soul and move to live here in Russia? Thank you. Thank you very much for mentioning the Russian soul, which is a very delicate and intricate substance. But actually we have something that distinguishes us from the rest of the countries. What is it about? We coexist and we develop in a patchwork of cultures, religions and creeds, and all that taken together, put together, is a space that allows us from decade to decade, from century to century, to be able to exchange and swap our DNAs, because there are lots of mixed families in Russia. We also exchange our cultural DNA. So, and we actually have a totality of the Russian nation based on the traditional values, even if we don't have quite a clear idea what it is all about. But actually the Russian civilization, Russian culture is unique, it's diverse, it's interesting, it's fascinating, and there's a point to get to know it better and closer, including for those living abroad and wishing to know what Russia is, and having received this understanding, they can start working with us openly and for the benefit of ours and their own countries. By the way, Belgium appeared on the map of the world as an independent nation, to a large extent thanks to the stance of Russia in the past. Well, that does not matter today, but what matters is that we have our own track record with many countries of the world. It's mostly positive with respect to your profession. It's a noble one, and I have mentioned that for many times, but I must repeat and reiterate. Well, you can just learn everything by heart, cram everything by heart, but actually to become a talented doctor, you've got to have this spirit, this soul, be compassionate, to dedicate your life to serving others, and you will be able to find good partners and friends here. We have our own achievements, and there are some things that we have to improve. There is room for advancement. We have a lot of plans in the pipeline in medicine. We have cardiovascular surgery achievements here, in other domains also.
There is a huge initiative for cancer treatment, diabetes treatment, and achievement, success. I'm aware of cases of cooperation. Still, despite all restrictions imposed for political reasons, I know cases when, in your specific domain, when specialists from your sphere work no matter what, because there are strong humanistic origins. Moreover, I know about cases when people face difficulties of quasi-political nature, and in spite of everything, in spite of propaganda, in spite of different views on different processes, I heard on multiple occasions, and I almost quote, especially when patients have said, "We will always be with us." And we respect highly people like you. Make no mistake, we will exercise the same attitude forever. Mr. President, we had a talk with guys that some people came here knowing not a single word in Russian, and now they know many. One young person from Kamchatka is sitting in back rows. He's probably unaware of what has been talked about.
My name is Caleb Maupin. I'm the leader of the United States delegation. I'm representing the Center for Political Innovation. And I would like to just thank you from the bottom of my heart for that dynamic interview you gave to Tucker Carlson, in which you showed many, many young Americans a different kind of leadership, because our politicians and our leaders in the United States, they speak in sound bites, they speak in terms of scandal and gossip, but you presented a long-term vision, a scientific view of statecraft, and by getting through to young Americans, you made a difference. Many people who would never have listened to anything you had to say or heard another perspective heard you because of that interview. Now, getting to my question, things between our two countries are not good at this point. Before we left, we had to have a press conference at the United Nations. We are concerned about being prosecuted. There are 3 Americans that have already been charged and are facing prosecution, possibly 15 years in prison, simply because they attended a conference like this in Russia, the you.The movement they're called. And we are concerned because I know that I speak for the majority of the American people when I say that we do not want our tax money dumped into this conflict in Ukraine any longer. We do not want our country to continue to deteriorate internally while our leaders waste money on prolonging this war. I'm frightened by what the Biden administration is doing, not just in Ukraine, but also on Taiwan and on the Korean Peninsula. And I really do see gatherings like this as a potential road to peace. And what I have seen at this festival has blown my mind. The amount of young volunteers that you have here, people who have stepped up, who love their country and want to just come forward and put together dynamic events like this. What kind of role can events like this and young diplomacy activities like this play in helping set the stage for maybe changing the dangerous direction our leaders in the United States are taking things against the majority of the wishes of the majority of the people of our country? Thank you.
Соединенные Штаты
The United States of America is a huge and unique country in its own way. Over 300 years, in just 300 years, which is a small period of time compared to our history, but thanks to the talents of the Americans, it became a superpower, which is an obvious fact. We know outstanding American politicians, we know outstanding American business people, cultural activists, which is an obvious fact. We used to be allies during 2 world wars as we fought Nazism and fascism. What happened recently? After the war, after the alliance, the United States and the Soviet Union started dividing the world, and they did so successfully. And based on this balance of powers, they created international relations and created the modern system of international law. Then the Soviet Union ceased to exist for a number of reasons. I will not go into detail, but they were mainly internal reasons. There is one superpower remaining, represented by your country. The way your elites use this monopoly to global domination is dubious. In my opinion, the United States failed to bear this burden of responsibility that they happened to bear. They created monopoly, strengthened it. I don't mean the American people, I mean the ruling elites. While strengthening their monopoly, they soon faced a situation where the overwhelming majority of countries disliked it. And step by step, it became obvious to everyone that there is resistance to the forming global order. Many, including your allies, they are keeping their silence here. They are afraid of speaking up because they're dependent on major economies, on mass media. There are a lot of dependencies, but believe me, I know what I'm talking about. Even allies dislike it too. And so they faced failures and disturbances. The ruling elites of the United States, after achieving the monopoly of power, decided that the previous system of international relations that was built on the outcomes of World War II is no longer satisfying for them because the balance of power evolved, and hence they decided to change the international legal order. And when it became clear that not everyone is okay with this, by this I mean Iraqi developments, they happened without UN Security Council sanctions. The same applies to Syria, Yugoslavia, former Yugoslavia. Without going into detail about root causes, there were no decisions or resolutions of UN Security Council. the United States did let this genie get out of the bottle. If they did so, why can't other countries protect their national interests in the same way? As for Yugoslavia, my counterpart told me on multiple occasions, yes, we did so without UN Security Council resolution, but there was a waging 8-year war, bloodshed, something must be done. When Russia, however, decided to protect their people in the Donbass, which faced a war with the elderly, with children being killed, why cannot Russia do the same while protecting their own people, not some thousands of kilometers away from their national borders, instead on the border of their own country, and people were waiting for us to help without going into detail. My point is, to understand that the world cannot be controlled from one pole, and which is detrimental to that pole itself as it undermines the foundation. And in the interview given to your compatriot, Mr. Carlson, I said that dollar is being undermined as they forbid to use dollar for settlements. They seek quick results. Instead of gaining one, they only undermine their national currency. They attain an opposite result, and this is true for many areas. In my opinion, this is a wrong policy. But the youth, returning to your question, can do many things without interfering in domestic processes, without describing or giving descriptions of the behavior of presidential candidates. It is just a part of the national culture, but youths can contribute in building state-to-state relations. What would be the procedure? They can just speak up domestically, within law, within their constitution. It is the only way, the only option. In no way do we call upon any activities of disobedience, but it is a possibility to speak up in their own country. And I think this is a way to go. In my opinion, this is going to pave the way for non-state forms of contact in order to create conditions for improving relations on state-to-state level too. Thank you very much for your question. I suggest we follow higher rows. You have the floor, please.
Assalamu alaikum.
Alaikum assalam.
Спасибо. Good evening, everyone. Good evening, Mr. President, and thank you so much for sharing these special, memorable moments with us. I am Amir Hawass from Egypt, and I recently graduated from Alexandria Faculty of Medicine. And actually, my graduation ceremony should be on the same day I took my flight to come here to Sochi. I missed my graduation ceremony, but I really see that the World Youth Festival is my graduation ceremony. Beside medicine, I work for the Global Youth Ambassadors team in Egypt. We are a completely volunteering team, helping our community and people getting humanitarian education, humanitarian healthcare services, and also giving chances for young people to be leaders in their communities. We are currently working on an international initiative that aims to exchange volunteers and community activists between countries by sending our volunteers to other countries to implement our work in other countries and vice versa. This idea was an inspiration from We Are Together prize, where my team were selected 2 times as top finalists for the prize. My team leader, Dr. Nagla, was a finalist in 2021 and me in 2022. And my experience in Moscow in the International Forum for Civic Participation with you, Mr. President, was amazing. Really, the people in We Are Together Prize family have very amazing humanitarian volunteering actions that brought us here together to implement our goals. And that's what I want to talk about, volunteering. As a volunteer, I am very impressed by the volunteers of the World Youth Festival. They are all the time hardworking, very friendly, and smiling all the time. And let me thank them. I know that maybe there is more than 5,000 volunteers here in the festival. Spasiba to all of them. And I really want to ask you, Mr. President, how is volunteer community being built in Russia? And how could you manage to include such a large number of people in it? Thank you. Shukran. Spasibo.
First and foremost, I want to address your colleague from Belgium. If you want to connect Russian doctors, make sure you do so right here and now. Please have a seat. Secondly, regarding the organization of volunteering movements, a lot has been said about the Russian soul here. Without jokes aside, irony aside, the ethnicities of Russia have in their soul this feeling of compassion, which is passed on from parents, from mother and father to children, from generation to generation. And this willingness to help other people, willingness to give support, is something that lies within our spiritual tradition. The volunteering movement, even in the hardest days of our history, in the darkest times, we used to have a lot of volunteers, including during the Great Patriotic War, World War II. There were many volunteers who went to front lines voluntarily, as they do today, to take part in hostilities in order to put an end to the war that was unwaged in the Donbass in 2014. The volunteering movement as such of today, it began with the preparations to the 2014 Olympics here in Sochi. Later, another great boost was given to the movement during the COVID-19 pandemic. Many people risked their lives and actually lost one while helping others. Helping our people, they selflessly stood in the way of harm and helped others evade the disease or fight the disease. Naturally, we supported this initiative. We created platforms that would be conducive and would enable these people who voluntarily, selflessly serve the society or help major events. And we are very much happy that millions of people are involved in these creative joint efforts. As for uniting efforts, well, of course, the platforms are there. They're active, and we kindly invite you. You're welcome. As you have graduated from your school, I don't know about your future plans. Probably you want to go back home to Egypt, or you want to improve your qualification in Russia, which can be done on a joint basis. But should you decide to promote volunteerism in your country, you can internalize our experience and our positive success. And I wish you every success here. It's a very noble cause. Here at the festival, on the sidelines of the festival, the fourth We Are Together prize was launched. I mean, the international prize, thanks to your decision of 2021, it's now an international prize. And we had surprises there. During the formal ceremony, there was a proposal to a future bride. So let's give the floor to the young people out there. Please give them the mic. Second row. Mr. President, good afternoon. I'm Dasha Kukarskih. I'm film and theater actress. A year ago, our team a team of the 2022 project, which has been recently published on TV Channel 1. We visited Mariupol, the new territories, and first fiction film. My question is as follows. I'm curious, what films did educate you as a person, as an individual of big heart, as an understanding person who values people, and how did your taste evolve to your current age? Like Cheburashka. I mean the Cheburashka of the then period. Kind, a little sentimental. That provoke the best human qualities like kindness and aspiration to create and to help the near and dear. There were a lot of animated movies and films like this. The Soviet Union produced them a lot. It is something to be passed on to our children too. What is being created today is high-tech production. Everything is moving swiftly. People are chasing one another. They cannot catch up with each other. As long as they do so, they hit on the back with something heavy. The action is really in demand with the market, but whether it is in demand with a child, I'm not so sure. Nevertheless, all people of my generation used to be educated with this production, and later during school we read War and Peace, and we read works of Dostoevsky, and at least that was the curriculum back in the day, and something you realize later as an individual grows up, as they become mature, as they gain experience in communicating with people, they gain their own perspective on the good and the bad. They have different views on classical works, on modern literature, on films.
There is nothing unusual in my track record. It's very, very regular, and I wish you all the best in your creative undertakings. You've been turning your face to the problems of the people living and residing in that region, which is very important. These are very acute issues, and people need the support of creative workers and artists, the talented ones, able to convey what is the gist of people's lives in an emotional and bright and memorable way. Thank you. You also sector here. Hear that?
Thank you so much. My name is Davis Akampulira from Uganda. Your Excellency, I'm a former president of the Students' Union in my country, and I've also served in the various youth leadership positions in my country, and I'm also a farmer. Your Excellency, first of all, I would like to thank you for what you've been doing for Africa for over years, especially to do with scholarships and other things. But also, I would like also to thank you for what you like over time. You've talked about the injustices in international politics, more particular the manifestation for neocolonialism. I would like to say that in this struggle you have done this not because for your self-interest or for the interest of the people of Russia, but for the people of the world. I would like to thank you for that, Your Excellency. Another point, Your Excellency, as we're moving ahead, we would like to tell us maybe to tell me, especially me and the people of Africa, how we can work together with Russia to see some of these challenges, to see how we can solve some of these challenges that are affecting our people. And also, we see how we can work together with the people of Russia to see that we have everything solved in the whole world. I would like to thank you so much. But also, before I conclude on personal privilege, Your Excellency, I would like you to mentor me. I would like to be your son from Africa. Oh, thank you so much. Thank you.
Что я могу сказать вам, сынок?
Well, my son, what can I tell you?
Хочу сказать,
Sonny, first of all, I'm turning to you not only as a son, but also a president. You used to be president of the Students' Union of your country. So, Mr. President, I'll address you in this fashion. You know, well, jokes aside, no kidding, in North America, in the US, in Europe, many people, educated ones, serious people, believe that to a large extent the well-being of those countries is based on exploiting other peoples. Today's well-being of those nations is based on exploiting Africa to a large extent, on exploiting their natural reserves and human resources of Africa. They tell that point blank, bluntly. I do not think that we should go into extremes or seek their atonement, but that should be borne in mind anyway. Only making an allowance for this circumstance, we can see to it that today's unfair economic order is rectified. I'm moving to some complex, intricate matters, but I will not use intricate and complex categories. Today's economic world order is unfair. It's not by chance that the WTO has the bulk of the governments, the majority of the governments of the world not capable to come to terms with each other during those infinite sessions, because today the rich nations of the world do not want, in deed and not in word, to establish such a system of international trade and economic ties that would enable an open market for the emerging economies and provide for a liberal context of their growth. And the emerging economies have been trying year after year to shift and alter this economic world order, but handicaps are placed on them. And, you know, when we had the second summit between Russia and Africa in St. Pete, you probably have heeded what the leaders of African nations stated, despite the rebukes and rebuffs. And the unfavorable conditions imposed on African nations so that they shouldn't come. They still came, they arrived, not only because we have had a good relationship with Africa, no, also because Africa wants to be an independent and standalone continent, not responding, not reacting to any rebukes. Well, during that forum, my African counterparts have mentioned that the African nations have the cumulative debt that cannot be repaid, no matter what you do. You know, but this was the financial context previously established, and the African nations had to borrow on these terms, and as if the financial organizations of the West hadn't had an idea that Africa would not be able to repay the debt. You know, after the First World War, the greedy leaders, the then greedy leaders of France and Great Britain established such a financial context for Germany, imposing contributions and crippling conditions of repaying debt to the Entente states, that it was next to impossible. It was impossible by default to repay the debt, and that was one of the reasons why Hitler rose to power quickly, as he told to his people, look at what these villains are doing. They have imposed crippling conditions upon us, and we will not be able to repay with the debt, and we only have one way forward. We must struggle with arms for our interests, and this is one of the major causes, not the only one, though. Then why such burden is imposed on Africa today, one may wonder. So it does not mean that we should always struggle in arms for our interests, no, but we should do our utmost to change the context, to make it more transparent and fairer and more sustainable, which is, as I have just said in my concluding remarks at the forum closing ceremony next door. And actually, there is another point I'd like to emphasize. During multiple contacts with the African leaders, even people from those countries with very dire economic situations and malnourished people, malnourished population, not a single person did ask for money directly. No one approached me hat in hand. All of them spoke about their desire to establish a fair, honest, economic joint cooperation, joint work. We are ready to support our African friends if need be. You know, now we have shipped grain batches free of charge to several African countries, and we even paid the shipping, the delivery costs. We are ready to cooperate and to help where it's necessary. We are ready to work together with Africa on equal footing, and definitely Africa expects Russia to do so, and we will act in this vein. Africa has a brilliant, a bright future. Mr. President, it's been an hour. Do you have any time left? I know you have a tight schedule. No? Well, let's continue for a while. Right over there in that sector, and then we will go in the opposite direction. Please fetch a mic. And this young man. Good afternoon, Mr. President. In response to your question about the feedback, the best thing would be a quote by one of a person from Dubai I met here. Dubai. When I asked him, how do you like the forum, he said, I had reservations, I had fears going here. They told me it would be Russian propaganda, but now I feel the atmosphere of friendship. We have a positive propaganda, so friendship is the best propaganda, he said. I quote him as saying. So many thanks to you for the forum, and let me share my story. For me, the festival of the 2017, the previous one, played a major part in my life. I learned about the artificial intelligence back then, together with the Indian, Polish, and Greek teams, and we had pitch sessions during the foresight exercise. And a couple of years later, I went to Italy to receive education, to enroll on a course there. Then, thanks to the competition leaders of Russia, I came back, and now I'm a member of the Chernyshenko team. We are improving and enhancing AI here. in charge of robots also. This is a good example of social lifts and how the festival work well. Together with Economic Development Ministry and Sberbank, we have come up with a national blueprint for AI development. We expect it to give huge, colossal economic positive impact, and science and technology is a territory that may unite all nations. And I have an applied question. We are now proceeding to deploy the AI. Mr. President, do you use any voice, and do you have Yandex or Sber or any smart column or smart house? Do you generate, do you use generative networks to generate images for your friends? Do you use voice assistants? Well, why do I need Sberbank? Sberbank's voice assistant, I have Mr. Gref, president of Sberbank, always on the line. But please have a seat. Well, in earnest, talking in earnest, we may be proud of our achievements in this domain. Why so? Well, because our e-government has progressed much better than in many other countries worldwide, and this is definitely the merit of many people from such teams, including the Vice Prime Minister Chernyshenko, one of the sponsors behind this blueprint, and the festival also. And we have done some strides forward, but this is insufficient, and we are together with the colleagues inside the country and internationally to work on that. And we might double down on our efforts, probably, as this is common knowledge that, this holds the future. AI advancement will provide competitive advantages to each nation that has achievements in this sphere. We will be doing so, and there's a lot of questions and issues about ethics, but we also have something to boast in the positive sense. Quite well with our leading companies, we have come to terms, and they have established self-control tools on that platform. And this is of importance, as the application of the AI cannot be stopped. The spread of the AI cannot be stopped. I am not inclined to agree to the doomsday harbingers saying that there will be a point of inflection and the humanity will not come back to the human world, and there will be a point of no return, and a new epoch will start, and the era of robots, of machines, will supersede the current era. But now, today, everything hinges on us, including on resolving the issues that have been raised here by our American friend and partner and other representatives. We need to come to terms between ourselves, because in case it veers out of control, that may do a lot of damage. When the humanity is aware of real danger, if such technology is out of control, in this case we will be ready, we will be mature enough and ripe enough to cooperate and reach agreements, similarly to the non-proliferation agreements on the nuclear arms in the past, and we'll have to negotiate internationally. The common sense will prevail, I'm sure, and you cannot stop the technological advancement anyway. So you should have the lead. This is the conclusion. Mr. President, let's move right. So not to discriminate people. Please introduce yourself.
Hi, My name is Jorit, I'm from Italy. I'm here in New Form Festival. We are doing a mural all over the city. I don't know if you remember me, you mentioned me when I did the mural of Dostoevsky in Naples. And in that case, I would to remember that the culture cannot be cancelled, the culture cannot be...
Это
Jorit, Napolitan artist.
график.
Yes, yeah, the mural in Naples of Dostoevsky. So I really believe that art, I always try to connect Italy and Russia, because when I did that mural, all the main media attacked me. Because in Italy now there is a lot of pressure on all the artists or cultural that try to say that Russia people are not like the propaganda described them. I always try to use art to connect these two countries. And then after that mural, I've been in Mariupol. I painted a face of children that for me represent all the children of the world, and especially the children of Donbass. Because I think for 10 years, the Western media didn't talk about the children of Donbass. They didn't care about that children. So with that mural, I would show that they are the same like all the children in the world. So for me, with art, I try to connect these two countries, Italy and Russia. My question is, what do you think about art? What do you think that art can be an instrument to connect country, different nation? And then I want to ask you, pleasure, if it's possible, take a picture to show in Italy, a picture with you to show in Italy that you are human like everybody, and the propaganda that they spread all over is not true, that we are all human, we are all part of the human tribe.
Well, yes, of course. So will you not pinch me to make sure I'm real? Well, actually, we're also always inspired and admire. We always admired the Italian art, which unites us, and it's a masterpiece, great art of a great nation. It's obvious. We in this country, we always treated your art and your culture like this. This is not the only thing that united us. Garibaldi and your struggle for independence always united us, and the fact that you visited Donbass and Novorossiya was probably the call of your heart.
There is aspiration to freedom in every heart and something to be respected, something that you seem to respect, and so you also respect people's choices, the choice of their own future. Of course, every issue requires multiversatile approach. In my opinion, art is to enable people without interfering in current politics and giving details with its special language about the developments. Art is to enable people to make their own choices when facing difficult challenges of today, for one. And I think you're on the right track, and I wish you every success. And I'm sure you will be successful as long as you keep to that internal moral standards. And I think this is what matters in art. Mr. President, Latin America, should we give them the floor? Latin America, are you here? Are with us? Yes. Please.
Okay. Good afternoon, everyone. Mr. President, thank you for coming to share this special moment for us. My name is Lucas Adrian Garcia. I'm from Argentina, and I am a political scientist, and I am a director of International Center for the Cooperation between Russia and Latin America. Also, I'm the head of the delegation. We are almost 100 Argentinians here in this festival, enjoying this special moment. And I had a question related with innovation, technology, and artificial intelligence, but someone asked before. So, because of the excitement, we can say the joy we feel here in this room and during this week, also my delegates and all of the people we meet, they were asking about the future of the festival. That's why I changed my question, not to repeat the topic, but we were discussing with many delegates how can we develop a strong, stable, and united community of young people, young leaders around the world that can be ambassador of this great initiative, that is impactful, and develop new projects from this festival and go on. That's my question.
Вы знаете, мне кажется, что
Well, it is impossible to depoliticize everything. But if you want to have less restrictions, then you need to depoliticize contacts between youths to the maximum without trying to knock on closed doors or some walls. Instead, look for areas that are beyond suspicion, that are obvious at the same time in terms of joining efforts and addressing common issues in humanitarian area, first and foremost. In my opinion, this is going to create a network of conducive relations between youths in every country, which in its turn will lay the foundation for building state-to-state relations. You are often been asked about technologies because they saw Sber, Rosatom, 2,000 square meters of technologies, VK, and many were surprised to see their demonstrations. Please, you have the floor. Good afternoon, Mr. President. My name is Yulia Kozlova. I'm from Znania Society of Russia. Firstly, on behalf of all the guys from the Znania Society, I would like to thank you, for the feast you gave to Russia and to the entire world. After talking with people here, I found out that not only did they make friends here, but they also learned something new. As a part of this festival, there was the marathon of the Russian Znania Society, where people from all over the world met outstanding personalities. It's only Russia that has an open dialogue format at the distance of your stretched arm, and it's something very much appreciated. And we'd like to invite you as one of the Russia's best lecturers to VDNH, exhibition site of Russia Expo, and to exchange opinions with youths. Boys and girls out there are waiting for you. We appreciate the festivity that you gave to us all, and with those we made friends with throughout these days. Thank you. I don't believe I'm the best lecturer, to be honest. Although we had a short course in our university, it isn't about this. I mean, this kind of activity isn't my cup of tea, to be honest. And we really do have extremely talented professionals. They have both encyclopedic knowledge, they know how to present it, and they deliver it, explain it, and also win hearts and minds. And they compel the audience and they convince them. There are a lot of talents, and it is my job to make sure they visit your site and meet everyone. It's a very active sector here, Mr. President. Please do. Mr. President, please introduce yourself. What country are you from? From Montenegro.
My name is Alexandra Deletic. I come from Montenegro. I'm Secretary General of the political party Prava Crna Gora, Nastajašća Crna Gora. Firstly, I want to convey warm regards from the majority population of Montenegro, as well as from the president of our political party, Mr. Marko Milacic. My question for you is, do you believe that this youth festival has helped the world to see the pressure that Western countries and their false democracies are putting on the countries that have imposed sanctions on the Russian Federation? One of them is Montenegro. Despite the majority of citizens not agreeing with it, I must note that in Montenegro, the ex-president, Milo Đukanović, is directly responsible for such policies betraying his nation. As one of the most powerful leaders in the world, with ability to unite people, do you expect the collapse of Western interests? And finally, before you respond, I must, on the name of Montenegrin delegation and people of Montenegro, I want to apologize for sanction imposed on Russian Federation. Thank you for your attention and time. Спасибо.
Да. Вы знаете,
You know, Montenegro has always been a close country to us. The population of Montenegro are close to us in terms of their religion, in terms of their culture, and we know the current context Montenegro is at. And sanctions have no effect on us. They are just for external effect. The former head of Montenegro was not just the leader of the country, but he also was a business person, and it's not clear whether he was bigger in one way or another. You have mentioned sanctions and the effect of this on the current event that we are holding here. I want to underscore this festival and other activities like this are organized not as an instrument to fight sanctions. It is our government that successfully averts sanctions. We hold such events not to prove something to someone or to have an argument with someone. Instead, we hold such activities to make friends, to create conditions for communication between youths in order for them to gain more information about us, about Russia, and upon gaining it, and as many delegates today mentioned, they would be able to develop plans for cooperation with specific individuals, with specific professions, maybe enterprises, while coming up with new formats of interaction, and which would help countries that are in conflict with each other. They would help them to find ways out of these difficult times. It is exactly the focus of our event. We are very much grateful to you for visiting us. Thank you. Latin America, you had your say. Let's return to North America. They face difficulties coming here. 50 people came in spite of all. America, are you here? The United States, please do ask your question. Thank you so much. From Mexico, from North America. Thank you so much, Mr. President.
A nombre de todo el pueblo latinoamericano que participó en este festival, on behalf of all the Latin American people that participated here in this festival, that we are so happy because of the achievements we have cooperated with you, with Russia, in terms of the subject of indigenous peoples. When we met in October with the other leaders of national preparatory committees, we proposed that this subject was very important to include in the general program, and so we did. My question, of course, it's gonna be on that subject, but first of all, my name is Antonio, I'm from Mexico City. I also study here at MGIMO, and on all this process of being together with Russia, we found the Association of Mexican Students, first in MGIMO and then in all Russia. I was the former president. And then the Future Team project. I see that behind you we have the Let's Start the Future Together. Начнем будущее вместе. And Команда Будущее was the project that led by Russia Vladimir, and we took that to Mexico. And we keep on working with Russia.Trudnichество. We have been doing since all these 7 years, and we want to continue on that. So many of the national preparatory committees has established also this future team in their countries, in Africa, in Asia, in Latin America. That's what we want to do, and the question is, how do you see the importance of the indigenous communities and the art and the culture of this that can connect us also as a indigenous diplomacy, because that's one of the achievements that we can have more also on the cultural sphere, education, and so on, because it's all the agenda that we are watching, we are knowing that we will have. Спасибо большое еще раз. Muchísimas gracias.
Это вопрос, который важен и для нас.
A question that matters to us too, to retain cultures of indigenous small-numbered peoples, national cultures and traditions, is of great importance to us. These are the roots. These are the roots for all the peoples living in the wide space of Russia. They're of great importance as they retain our traditions, as they retain our spirit. I have nothing against pop culture, but we do understand what it is. It matters too. But while returning to the soul issue, it belongs to national traditions and national culture, and we have something to say about it. It is something that very much in demand, and we should exchange experiences, practices, in this important area, and also to convey the beauty of national cultures to one another. It is of great importance, and is also beautiful. So we stand ready to work with you. Please. Good evening, Mr. President. My name is Andrei Savelyev. I work in the Patriotic Center Voin that was created on your command. I'm from Kiev. After the coup d'etat in Ukraine, I left Kiev to the Crimea. I joined the militia and I defended the Crimea Slavyansk as a field medic at the age of 16. As the special military operation began, I went to the front line and served at the Sparta Battalion, which is a legendary battalion. I work as a volunteer in military hospitals. In 2012, before the Maidan, the Cossacks in the on the Kiev Square held an activity dedicated to the friendship of Belarus, Russia, and Ukraine. I, back in the day, was in the cadet education course, and banderites arrived, and they took the banner from our activity. They wanted to escape. I chased him and got it back, and afterwards I was invited to the embassy of Russia and received the watch signed by you. And this flag is currently at the Voin booth here. I represent here the Donetsk delegation, and I'm gratified that I can convey truth not only to delegates from Russia but also from around the globe. And I would like to thank volunteers that enable me to do so. who participate, who help our fighters, and on behalf of all special military operation people, I want to thank you for defending the Donbass and our country. Our army demonstrates the reputation of Russia. In my part, I want to thank you for your position. As you stood up and started speaking firmly, I understood immediately who you are. Thank you very much for your position, for your work. What you're doing today, as strange as it may sound, what you're doing today is to the benefit of both the Ukrainian and the Russian people. And I'm confident, thanks to people like you, as I have said on multiple occasions in public, sooner or later, reunification, spiritual reunification at the very least, will take place. In order for this to happen, we need to eradicate everything that prevents us from doing that. And we face atrocious manifestations of nationalism. It is poison for many ethnicities, for many nations, Ukraine included. I explained this to our foreign delegates. A young man has just mentioned banderites. Who is a banderite? Banderite is a follower of Bandera, who during World War II collaborated with Hitler. They killed 1.5 million Jews, Russians, Poles, and Belarusians. Countless victims. When at the end of war Hitler started losing the war, and it became clear to everyone that Nazis are losing, banderites attempted to join the ranks with allies, and Hitlerites attacked them for this. But it is a historical fact. They are people who collaborated with Nazis, who exterminated civilians. People like this are now being glorified as national heroes in today's Ukraine. Their portraits are being shown and paraded as icons in major cities. They are symbols of the current state of Ukraine. This is something we're fighting. Thanks to the boy like this. Please, you have the floor.
Guten Abend, sehr geehrter Herr Präsident. Ich hoffe, es ist in Ordnung, wenn ich mit Ihnen auf Deutsch spreche. Mein Name ist Christian Wagner und ich komme aus der Dankeschön. Mein Name ist Christian Wagner und ich komme aus der norddeutschen Hafenstadt Hamburg. Meine Hafenstadt gehört neben München und Dresden zu den schönsten Großstädten Deutschlands. Ich habe dort eine Ausbildung zum Facharbeiter gemacht und jahrelang in der Maschinenbauindustrie gearbeitet. Nun mache ich ein Studium an der Rechtswissenschaftlichen Fakultät der Renmin University of China, mein Studium. Ich bin als Deutscher aus China hierher zum Festival gekommen, weil ich dafür kämpfe, dass sich die Kooperation auf dem eurasischen Kontinent vertieft und sich eine gerechte, multipolare Welt etabliert, in der sich alle Nationen und Völker auf Augenhöhe und mit Respekt begegnen. Zentral hierfür ist eine enge Partnerschaft zwischen Russland und China. Und ich wünsche mir, dass auch mein Heimatland Deutschland sich mehr in diese Richtung orientiert. Nach meiner Erfahrung will das deutsche Volk Frieden und Freundschaft mit Russland. Leider machen Regierungen und Medien das Gegenteil und stacheln gegen Empathie, gegen Solidarität und vor allem die Anerkennung der Souveränität anderer Staaten auf. Deshalb müssen die Menschen und vor allem auch junge Menschen selbst aktiv werden. Meine Frage lautet: Wie können wir Ihrer Meinung nach, Herr Präsident, als Gegner dieser Angelegenheit tun? Wie kann das gegenseitige Verständnis wachsen? Wie können wir eine Antwort bekommen und europäische Souveränität wiedererlangen? Danke.
Вы закончили свой вопрос тем, что вы хотели бы, так я понимаю, укреплять европейский суверенитет. Но, вы знаете, проблема сегодняшней Германии как раз в этом и заключается. Это даже не проблема, это беда, наверное, сегодняшней Германии. И она откуда возникла? Ведь сегодняшние достаточно солидные, уважаемые немецкие политики говорят, ну, господин Шойбле, например, сказал об этом несколько лет назад, о том, что современная Германия после Второй мировой войны никогда не была в полном смысле этого слова суверенной. Это не я сказал, это говорят немецкие политики. Почему, тоже понятно. В силу целого ряда ограничений, возникших после Второй мировой войны. И тех ограничений, которые создали страны-победительницы. Но, во-первых, я уже говорил тоже публично, нынешние поколения немцев не несут ответственности за то, что творили нацисты и фашисты. И в самой Германии, и в мире в целом, и в Европе. Но мы все должны сделать все, чтобы ничего подобного в будущем в мире не повторилось. Это точно совершенно. И в этом может быть особая ответственность и немецкого народа. Но хочу также отметить, что в истории наших стран мы всегда переживали золотое время в нашем развитии, в достижении успехов, когда мы, русские и немцы, объединяли усилия. Вот во все времена, когда Германия и Россия были вместе, работали вместе, мы добивались больших, очевидных успехов. К сожалению, сегодня это не так, но я думаю, что глубинные интересы, национальные глубинные интересы Германии и немецкого народа неизбежно, рано или поздно, наверх вынесут политиков, которые будут придерживаться именно такой точки зрения, будут придерживаться национальных интересов. Конечно, в рамках той системы отношений, которая складывается, которая развивается, но по мере строительства многополярного мира, думаю, что и в Европе будут происходить фундаментальные изменения. Сейчас мы слышим о том, что Европа уже должна иметь свои собственные вооруженные силы, Европа должна быть более независимой. Это же не я говорю, это говорят европейские политики. А это значит, что несмотря на известную иерархию в западном мире, все-таки прорывается на поверхность желание к самостоятельности и к защите своего суверенитета. Это неизбежно для всей Европы. Уверен, что так и будет в Германии. Нужно набраться терпения и работать над решением текущих проблем. И, конечно, молодые люди, причем разных политических взглядов, если они хотят добиться этого позитивного результата, должны объединять свои усилия. Я вам благодарен за то, что вы об этом думаете. Спасибо.
Владимир Владимирович, мы 1,5 часа работаем. Вы нас сориентируете? Вообще, потому что вопросов очень много.
Сейчас, давайте мы еще.
Продолжаем.
Продолжаем.
Пожалуйста, ребят, у вас есть уникальная возможность.
Пожалуйста.
Так.
Передавайте.
Ну давайте я выберу. Вот, пожалуйста, молодой человек тянет руку. Давно.
Здравствуйте, Владимир Владимирович. Давайте начну. Молодой человек,
всё,
я думаю, может продолжить после меня. Простите, пожалуйста.
Скоро 8 марта, это правильно, Международный женский день.
Спасибо большое. Меня зовут Анастасия Губернаторова, я представляю Белгородскую область. И я хотела бы начать свой вопрос с благодарности вам, лично, Владимир Владимирович, за поддержку жителей Белгородской области после ситуации, которая у нас произошла вот совсем недавно. Мы безумно ценим тот вклад, который вы внесли для каждого из нас. Мы чувствуем, что вы рядом, что вся страна с нами. Я думаю, все участники этой встречи это поддержат. Мы чувствуем, что мы вместе. Мы чувствуем, что скоро все будет
так, как мы захотим, и мы будем вместе с вами строить наше будущее. И, конечно же, хотелось бы отметить, что у нас добровольческое движение на территории Белгородской области растет, и нам безумно приятно и важно понимать, что вы глубоко цените нашу деятельность и высоко ее ставите наравне с людьми, которые тоже меняют этот мир. И очень важно было, конечно же, понимать, что площадки для развития добровольческого движения на территории нашей страны, на территории нашего мира растут. И спасибо вам за такую возможность обменяться опытом, поделиться какими-то своими практиками, взаимодействия с волонтерами, с нашими волонтерскими организациями, ребятами и неравнодушными людьми из нашей страны, которые помогают нам каждый день. Это и семьи, это молодые люди из детских садов, из школ, колледжев и университетов, которые каждый день пишут письма нашим военнослужащим. Это и те люди, которые присылают и отправляют гуманитарную помощь. Это все те, кто всегда с нами и всегда поддерживают нас. Спасибо вам еще раз большое за это. И мы безумно благодарим вас за поддержку жителей Белгородской области. И как от лица жителей города Белгорода конкретно, спасибо вам большое за это. И подскажите, пожалуйста, есть ли возможность такая приумножить площадки для обмена практиками, обмена нашим опытом с другими регионами, чтобы другие ребята из других стран, из других регионов могли тоже поделиться с нами этим,
Да.
так как это безумно важно для нас, для всех здесь присутствующих, и спасибо вам еще раз большое за такую возможность.
Что касается вот этих площадок для обмена опытом, у нас сейчас их работает там 3 или 4, но Машук там и так далее, Таврида, но в ближайшее время их будет 12. Поэтому мы понимаем важность этой работы и будем создавать условия для того, чтобы таких возможностей было больше. Но поскольку вы из Белгорода упомянули о происходивших там событиях, хочу вот что сказать, что это, не все, наверное, знают, и я вдаваться сейчас в детали не буду, но вы и жители Белгородской области это поймут. Вот обстрел мирных объектов, удар системой залпового огня по площадям, по мирным гражданам, это, безусловно, военное преступление.
Against squares and civilians is actually, without a doubt, a war crime. We will treat it as a war crime, and we will not let the perpetrators get off. I'd like to thank you and all the people of the Belgorod region for their audacity and courage, and for their patriotism. And all the volunteers must be recognized. Thank you very much. In all this sector. Yes, please. Rise, please. Just a mic is going. Will be passed to you. Mr. President, good evening. My name is Miloš Naskovic. I come from Serbia. I would like to thank you for this wonderful opportunity to receive my training here in Russia. I'm a graduate of the Moscow Spiritual Academy of the Troitsk Lavolta. Well, have you been officially recognized as a priest? Well, not yet, but I'm planning to do so. I had also an opportunity to have another course of on law, and thanks to the Russian Orthodox Church, we have built in Serbia a cathedral of Saint Savi of Serbia. Once when I visited Valam, I saw a wonderful photo of with Archimandrite Methodius that you knew, whom you knew. He was an enlightened reverend. When you talked to Methodius and visited us, have you been able to learn and get to know our culture and whether it's close to you? You know probably better than I do that the relationship between Russia and Serbia is that of special nature. We have a deeply rooted friendship, and I always have a warm feeling about Serbia that for centuries has been the most reliable allies of Russia, and we know that, we recognize that and remember that. Thank you. This sector, please. Man wearing a necktie.
Hi, my name is Noah Shank. I'm representing the United States on behalf of the Center for Political Innovation. And Mr. President, I'd like to echo my partner's sentiments in saying thank you so very much for allowing us to come here. But I'd also like to say that it is a little bittersweet for me to be here because, for example, during the opening ceremony, there was a moment where we were all joining hands. And there was a woman in front of me, and there was a man in a wheelchair, and he was sort of closed off. And I watched her reach her hand down and grab his hand, and they joined hands. And I felt the warmth of humanity. I felt the human spirit. And I see that all over this festival. I see so many people joined together, celebrating humanity. I see so much optimism. I see so much hope. I see so many young people ready to unleash their potential and push humanity forward. And then I thought back home, and I thought about all the people at home who can't afford to get an education, who ruined their lives with drugs because they live in a society that doesn't care for them. And I started to tear up because there's these two sides, and the more I thought about it, the more I realized that this is the difference between a collapsing society in the West and the rising society that is in the BRICS nation, and the new emerging economy today. So that brings me to my question here today, which is, do you see a world where the West could begin to join the new economy, could begin to join BRICS? And if so, what do you think that would look like?
Видите, до сегодняшнего времени все стремились...
Before today, everybody wanted to join Western structures, including Russia, that wanted to join the G7. And then we figured that no one cared for our interests then. This is the problem and the main mistake of our Western partners. And I tried to convey this idea when responding to the previous question by our American friend here. And you have mentioned, welfare and education matters. That is difficult, but they cannot afford to get proper education. It is not specific to the United States. It's a worldwide problem, and now lots of people from Latin America want to cross the US border illegally, and there are migrants, and everybody knows that. But this is universal across the globe. Many even rich nations have lots of problems, like the healthcare issues stand high on the European agenda. The United States has always tried to create the context, the most enabling context for top-ranking professionals, high-skilled professionals from across the world, and they offer better and higher salaries, and the Europeans migrated to the United States, therefore. But the world is not fully fair or just, and people with low incomes cannot receive a good education or medical assistance, and they can die on the threshold of a medical establishment if they don't have an insurance policy, which happened a lot. We know about these tragedies, but that does not mean that other countries in the world are fine and they have been able to strike the social balance properly. Our common goal is to provide a level playing field for everybody, equal conditions for all, but I'm convinced that if we are capable to establish a multipolar world where we all are interdependent and mutually reinforcing, social matters and welfare matters, including healthcare and education, will be resolved easier and more efficiently. Because joining hands, we can attain more and do better. Thank you. And we have BRICS representatives here. You represent South Africa. I got to know you during the festival. Am I not mistaken?
My name is Julia Mtweni. I am the Deputy President of the South African Student Congress, which is actually the biggest formation of students in Africa. Before I start with my question, of course, I would like to thank Your Excellency that I've met a lot of our students who study in Russia because of the scholarships that you afford us through our organization. I can't speak Russian, so some of them have been my translators. The only thing I know is Spasiba and Paka Paka. So I'm very grateful that they're actually here. And hopefully on my, sixth visit, perhaps my Russian will be a bit better. So I just wanted to touch on the issue of BRICS, Mr. President. Poverty stems on the social construction where young people cannot now be part of the bigger global labor market. Now, to take part in the global market, we've got characteristics that prevent us, such as a back forth on education, not being able to get a steady job, not being able to be part of the economy. Now, with the creation of BRICS, a lot of us were actually in awe and we're actually excited that at least with BRICS, there would be a platform in which that we would get more opportunities as young people. Now, before we can get those opportunities, there needs to be policies that are made. Now, my one critique, and perhaps you can give us advice, that whenever we tune on the TV, we see a lot of the older generation being part of the policy making in the BRICS, now actually BRICS Plus. Now, perhaps, Mr. President, my question will be derived on when will young people be in the rooms where the policies are done in BRICS so that those policies actually cater for the very same young people that they're up to cater for? Because I come from a country in South Africa where we're still fighting as young people to be more in parliament, to get younger people in parliament. So perhaps my advice would be, because BRICS is not just a national structure for us, it's a global structure now with Plus. So we are probably tired of just being invited to youth camps under BRICS or youth seminars under BRICS. We will also actually want to be part of the table, because we see the menu, but we can't order from the menu because the menu per se does not cater for young people. So Perry, my question would be that, when will young people be part of the policy making in BRICS so it's effective more for us as young people?
You know, BRICS was designed in Russia and established with our participation gradually. You know, I recall one of the international events of G8, by the by, in St. Pete. I suggested our Chinese and Indian friends have a three-way meeting, and this is how RIC emerged. After Brazil signed up and South Africa followed suit, and today the group has become a powerful magnet, attracting lots of countries. And as our American friend has noted, these countries are gathering pace and they're rising. They're on the rise, and now the global GDP, the aggregate GDP of BRICS countries has already exceeded and surpassed the G7 cumulative GDP. And this is going to continue. The gap will be widening, and you cannot revert the trend. It's going to get reinforced. And, well, you are right. It is important to hear from the young ones, the youths. This is why we established the youth platform of BRICS. But, you know, bearing in mind what you mentioned now, and bearing in mind the fact that we have the presidency of BRICS this year, I will do my utmost so that the young ones can sit at the same table with us and participate in our debates during the deliberations. Friends, well, there's the front sector, and we probably will be winding up, calling it a day gradually. It's been 2 hours. I know that we have a guest from Colombia.
Hi, I'm Valeria Montejo from Colombia. Everyone seems to know how a leader must act. Everyone seems to know the meaning and implications of being a leader, a president, or business person. But in reality, those rules deal on a daily basis with unforeseen situations that force them to make decisions that sometimes benefit or harms others. My question is, according to you and your experience, which is the correct way to deal with uncertainty that leadership brings and the consequences of such decisions and responsibilities? Thank you.
Вы знаете, на мой взгляд, нужно всегда иметь...
You know, I think that you must have always some lodestar inside yourself, some underlying principles, set of underlying principles, and definitely you must be forward-thinking. Whatever you do, and one of the people that used to be in politics said that a good politician thinks about future elections, and a true leader thinks about future generations. But actually, you always have to choose, and when you make your choices, we understand that we cannot satisfy everybody. But you have to think of the final definitive outcome and work for the good of your country, of your nation, of your people, for the sake of your people's future. It is not simple. You know, we had a commander of German origin, by the by, in this country, Marshal Minich, who said that Russia is a country that is ruled directly by God, because otherwise no one knows how it can exist. Well, in the first part, I totally agree with him. Russia is governed by God. As regards the second part of the quote, my experience, my track record shows that this country exists thanks to the Russian ethnicity and other ethnicities that reside on the territory, thanks to the dedication of the common Russian people and our certainty about our future. Thank you very much. Mr. President, if you allow, we have a good standing tradition established. China and India represent the biggest delegation, but France is not the biggest, so there hasn't been a session without a French question. So let them be the concluding speaker.
So, hello everyone. I am truly honored to stand before you today and extend my heartfelt gratitude to you, Mr. President, for the splendid festival you have organized. So my name is Israska. I am 21 years old and I'm from France. And I am deeply inspired by the cultural richness of Russia and all the other countries showcased at this event. Russia holds a special place in my heart as I'm planning to pursue my master's degree focusing on the Middle East and the North African region with a keen interest in its relation with Russia. As a young woman aspiring to navigate the world of diplomacy, I am eager to seek your guidance and what advice would you offer to young women worldwide who show similar interest in diplomacy? Additionally, considering the huge success of this festival, and are there any plans to make it a recurring event celebrating cultural exchange and understanding? Спасибо большое. Thank you very much, Mr. President. Thank you.
Что касается форумов,
for such fora we will continue the practice and we'll make them even more substantive, big with content and more attractive too. As for women in profession, female professionals, if you will, they do play a prominent role in Russia, in our life. Unfortunately, there are not so many women in the government. One of them has been here, Tatyana Golikova. Tatyana Golikova, she is in social affairs, healthcare and culture. Country-wise, however, on various levels of administration, there are quite a number of women, and the more there are, the better. As women have their natural traits, they are more disciplined, they are more thorough in terms of their professional duties. As for recommendations, I'm not the one to recommend to women, and something you wouldn't do, really. Don't get into this. It's not my piece of advice, it's just my train of thought. No matter what woman does, she should remain a woman first and foremost. She should be loved. She should create a certain atmosphere around her. In her family, the destiny of a woman is to continue the generation. It is a unique natural gift, and we treat it with great respect. We support it, and we have a maternity, infanthood, and motherhood support initiatives. On a serious note, of course, for France, for the entire Europe, for developed economies, and for Russia too. As we see a reduction of birth rate, it represents a major challenge to all countries, economic-wise included. So here, women plays a unique role, but at the same time, I mean males, we expect women to remain attractive, charming, and tender. To combine all these things, to build her career, to be tender and beautiful is a woman's secret, and I'm not getting into this. Thank you very much for this candid conversation. You dedicate so much time to us. Hold on a second. I want to ask my African family member and Italian boy out there to come here.